and I get locked up, they won't let me out.
Akon is right. Incarceration is one of the main forms of punishment in the United States, where there are approximately 2.2 million adults locked behind bars, and another 4.7 million adults are either out on probation or parole. Meaning, 1 in 35 Americans are under correctional supervision. Think about it this way. If 1 out of every 35 American refused to shower once a day, there would be a national outcry for mandatory deodorant. And that's a hygiene issue. This is someone's life being biblically fucked. The United States of America is the leading nation on loads of things: obesity, an inexplicable tolerance for country music, and also imprisonment. The US now accounts for 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's prison population. And it didn't used to be this way. Our prison population has grown more than 800% since the 1970s. And it's easy to think that's because we have more criminals than we ever had. But the rate of which prison population has grown is far larger than the population and the crime rate overall. So why are there so many more people in prisons? Well, according to a 2014 Human Rights Watch report, tough on crime laws adopted since the 1980s are to blame for filling the US prisons with mostly nonviolent offenders. But there are also a number of other reasons, like mandatory minimum sentencing laws, the dismantling of our mental health system, and the emphasis we currently place on lengthy prison terms rather than rehabilitation. Oh, and the Reagan war on black people. I mean drugs. I meant drugs consumed by black people. Close to 50% of our prison population is currently incarcerated for drug offenses, and 40% of all drug arrests in 2014 were for marijuana possession. Think about that for a second. It's fucking legal to possess marijuana in 24 states. It's like being arrested for the possession of a donut. But the problem is much larger than drugs and donuts. According to 538, even if we were to release all drug offenders from prison tomorrow, our incarceration rate still wouldn't even come near Turkmenistan's. And we'd have to do a lot more than that to lower it down to Russia's rate, a country where you can go to prison for being gay or making fun of the president. So the solution has to be broader. And with broad problems come broad profits. The profiteers of doom in this instance are private prison corporations that account for 19% of the federal prison population, a number that has grown 16 times in the past decade. The 2 top companies, GEO and CCA, generated $3 billion of revenue in 2010. These are publicly traded companies like Apple or Coca-Cola, and they have a vested interest in making sure the incarceration rate continues to grow. Unlike Apple, whose only interest is making us treat a little glass box with the same level of care as our firstborn. Until the new one comes out, that is. Then your firstborn is a piece of shit who can't run the latest Snapchat update without crashing. And profiting from incarceration is definitely a morally questionable concept.
In a recent investor presentation, CCA pitches its unique investment opportunity. Another reason investing in the jailing of people makes good financial sense: high recidivism.
If I owned a hotel and the government couldn't keep up with the tourism demand, and I invested a bunch of money into putting up more hotels and then cut costs by undertraining, understaffing, and overbooking, I'd want to make sure even more people stayed at my shitty hotels. And that's exactly what the private prison lobby does.
$1 million lobbying federal officials on a host of issues.
It has put millions more into state and federal elections, and it works with ALEC, a group that pushes pro-corporate legislation. ALEC wrote more than 85 bills to promote prison privatization and increase sentences.
In America, we all know the only thing better than making money is making even more money. So what would happen to the bottom line of the prison industrial complex if we changed our overall attitude towards incarceration to place the emphasis on rehabilitation instead? Well, for one thing, we could actually lower the recidivism rate from around 50%. Which goes directly against the interests of these companies, who are also looking into new revenue opportunities at the moment. Mexicans.
Was Arizona's controversial SB 1070.
The law allowing police to stop someone for looking Hispanic and detaining them if they weren't carrying proper papers.